You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and thanks for joining us once again. Those of you who've been checking us out, thank you so much. Please hit the subscribe button for me. That's the only way I'm keeping score. And I see the subscriptions going up, which I greatly appreciate. But at the same time, I'm finding that 2/3 of you are watching and not subscribing. Please, I really hope you subscribe. I'm not doing sponsorships. I'm not collecting donations. I'm not doing nothing. But YouTube is going to decide pretty soon whether to throw me a couple of bucks or throw me off the platform. They both might happen. Who knows? But nonetheless, your subscriptions are how I'm keeping score. So if you could please. Also, please email us, thejohnnybrewshow@gmail.com. Number one, if you email us, like about a dozen of you have done so far, I'd appreciate some more. Send me your name, your phone number, and your email. I will never share it to a political PAC, to a commercial entity, to any kind of information gathering company. I simply want it so that way, if I ever do get kicked out of all the platforms, I'll have a way to get in touch with you and share my story, because I'll tell you right now, my life is a tornado trapped within a hurricane. I could use Saturdays off, but I promised you, if I had at least 10, 12 people, which is a lot more than just 10 or 12, that said that they look forward to watching the show, I will keep doing it. So I will keep doing it. But the one thing in support that I ask is that you subscribe, please. Send us your thoughts. Comment in the Facebook group, Common Sense Nevada or the Johnny Brew Show. Comment on the videos in YouTube. Throw me some likes. But most importantly, tell a friend. Subscribe. Spotify, Google Podcasts, yada, yada, yada. All right. So let's get to the news at hand. And obviously, the number one thing we need to talk about is Afghanistan. I've been saying, whether you're talking about racism or LGBTQ awareness or even masks in schools and coronavirus, these things are not major problems that we're having to work with in our society. And we're losing the battle of which there shouldn't even be a battle. All right? Everybody's free. All right? We are the least racist country in the world that ever existed in the world. We have more equality of opportunity, of justice for gay people, people of color, any kind of disenfranchised group you may think of. We got you covered. You have equal opportunity. All right? Nobody really cares who you're sleeping with when you go home at night. Nobody really cares what the color of your skin. We're not colorblind. We do notice that people look different. But at the same time, a human being is judged on the content of their character, on the actions and things that they say. And the problem, I've said all along, is that one day we're actually going to have a problem. And the good thing about actually having a problem is it will wake everybody up. All right? There are people dying in Afghanistan, including American citizens, including people who risked their life to defend freedom and to help America fight this war on terror. All right, we went over there to protect Americans, to catch Osama bin Laden, to destroy any of the caliphate endearing groups such as ISIS or Al Qaeda or even the Taliban, who is a strict enforcer of Sharia law. And Sharia law, for those of you who don't know, makes women second-class citizens. You can't leave the house without a male chaperone. You must cover your face and your head at all times. I mean, that is human rights abuse. All right? perceived systematic racism, which clearly is not the case when you look at our population. You look at our population of government officials. You look at our population of cops. You look at our population of soldiers. We are diverse. You look at the schools. We are diverse. Our teachers are all different shapes and colors. Our soldiers come from all different ethnic backgrounds. We don't have these problems, these perceived problems. But they do have those problems in Afghanistan. All right? Where gay people will be summarily thrown off the roof of a building. Because that's the standard punishment under Sharia law if you're a gay person. All right? They're not worried about how much people are paying for abortions or how much access people have. I mean, America, I just saw on Facebook this morning, people are flipping out over accessibility to abortions. Our government is sponsoring abortions. Planned Parenthood's on every corner, just like you see Starbucks. That's not a problem. That's a perceived problem. But there's problems in Afghanistan with women, with Christians. Do you know that women are being stopped and beaten and berated for leaving their house? Men leave their house, and a Taliban spokesperson, representative, foot soldier, whatever the case may be, takes their phones. They go into the search part of the cell phone and they type in Jesus or Bible. If a man has a Bible app, if the man has something in their notes about Jesus, they get killed. It's a death penalty for Christianity. We need to recognize some people. Glenn Beck from The Blaze. Most of you should have heard of him. He's got a slightly larger following than me. In 2 days, this dude raised $20 million in order to self-finance rescue missions to find Christians in Afghanistan. And this isn't even a shout out to Glenn Beck, who, God bless him, he's doing God's work. This is a shout out to the people donating, to the people that realize that, there's a big difference to donating to a bail fund of a criminal who lights a courthouse on fire and donating to courageous patriots and Christians who are willing to risk their life and go to Afghanistan in order to save these people. There's another dude. I forget his name. Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. I could look at my email. He sends me emails all the times. And this guy, for the past 20 years, he's been going to the Middle East to save the abandoned wives and children of ISIS fighters, whether they were killed or they left their home, never came back because they traversed to France or Germany during the migrant moving. Who is this guy? I forget his name. Victor Marks. All right? I mean, just a portion of an email he sent me. If you've been watching the news over the past 24 hours, you've heard what's going on in Afghanistan. Here are some updates from our team. It's beyond our reach. They have a small team that operates like a special operations unit, and the scale of Afghanistan requires national level resources that even their team that goes in to rescue Christians, to give Bibles and toys and gifts to abandoned children. Guys, this is the America I know and love. People are doing things. Lara Logan is a reporter. I mean, there's so much great information coming out. It's not coming from our government. And we'll find out in a minute. First, let me play you an American teacher who's stuck in Afghanistan. And, Biden's been saying just make your way to the airport. And this is his message explaining how they're simply not letting anyone in. Play tape.
Audio message from a trapped teacher, a U.S. permanent resident, who says even with the proper paperwork, he couldn't get through. For his safety, we're not naming him.
It is insane. There are people holding their American passports. There are people that work with the Americans, and they're not letting anyone in. We are in huge danger, and we need help.
And with tens of thousands of Americans and Afghans who've helped the U.S. desperate to get out,
these Americans are literally trapped behind enemy lines. All right? The Americans, first of all, this all started because Joe Biden wanted to pull 2,500 American troops out of Afghanistan, which was primarily a backup force, logistics, training, mechanics, in order to help the Afghan army. The Afghan army did not have 300,000 troops like Joe Biden said. Up to half of those Afghani troops were ghost troops. They were baloney on paper in order to get the funding. So somebody like me forged like 10 different troop applications and stuff like that in order to get checks because we are paying the Afghanistan troops. It's all baloney. All right? Americans, after Joe Biden told them to come to the airport, Americans are going to the checkpoints holding up their passports. Do you know what the Taliban soldiers are doing? They're taking the passports. They're taking them. And then they're going to either use them as forgeries or they're going to burn them. We have Americans stuck behind enemy lines in streets that are run by the Taliban and Sharia law police state enforcers. What is Joe Biden going to do when we start getting reports of Americans getting killed because they have a Bible app? Because they went to the checkpoint and held up their passport and got their passport taken away. So now they don't have the paperwork. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when we find out 5 Americans were killed, were executed? I mean, that's going to happen any day now. You guys realize this. This is just the beginning. When we find out, when that first cell phone video emerges, which God willing is not going to happen this week, what is Joe Biden, what is our Defense Department going to do when Americans start getting killed? What is our Defense Department, what is Joe Biden going to do when China sees our reaction? Is this the same way we're going to handle it when China invades Taiwan or Hong Kong? Is this how we're going to handle it when Russia invades Georgia or Crimea or any of the Uzbekistans or whatever the case may be? You don't think that these anti-American governments in Libya, in Iran, in Russia, in China, are watching how we react? Did you know that China just flew, I think it was a dozen of their bombers over Taiwanese airspace, protected airspace that the Chinese are not allowed to go under? Do you know that Trump had a plan to withdraw those 2,500 troops, and Biden says, oh, he's just following the plans that Trump left him, and he was left with an impossible situation? This was not the plan Trump left. Trump always said he would listen to the people who were on the ground. All the people on the ground said whenever we were going to attempt this, it must be in the winter. These Afghanis, these Talibans, these ISIS fighters, this is their way of life. Fighting in wars is a way of life for these people, especially in Afghanistan. Whether you go back to Marco Polo and Genghis Khan and all the way up to Russians in Afghanistan in the 80s, Americans in Afghanistan in the 2000s. This is the way of life in Afghanistan. All right? Just like we barbecue every weekend, except for in the winter, these Afghanis go to war, except for in the winter. Every spring they come out and they go wherever they go. Syria, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever the fight is, they get their marching orders, they go. They fight for 9 or 10 months, and then they go home for a couple of months. So anytime you wanted to withdraw troops, it had to be in the winter. I'm an idiot podcaster. I'm not a soldier. I'm not well versed in war tactics. But even I know, if you're going to withdraw troops in Afghanistan, it has to be in the winter. Joe Biden didn't know that? Is this a failure of intelligence, or is this a failure of leadership? Or both? Well, have no fear. The defense secretary will explain what they're going to do. You may be disheartened to find out that he says we don't have the capability to rescue large numbers of Americans in Afghanistan. Remember, he is in charge of the largest, fiercest, most financed fighting force in the history of mankind. If anybody has the capability to do anything the heck they want, it's the U.S. military. This is the message from the leader of the fiercest fighting force the world has ever known. Play tape.
Distinction, Bar, between extracting someone in an in extremis condition or circumstance versus going out and collecting up large numbers of American citizens.
Do you have the capability to go out and collect Americans?
We don't have the capability to go out and collect up large numbers of people, Bar.
We don't have the capability. We have ballistic missiles that could shoot George Washington's wig off his head on a dollar bill if you found it on the streets of Kabul. We have the sickest, craziest special forces that the world has ever known. Army Rangers, Navy SEALs. We have paid militias, ex-military that are making $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year because they're paid fighters. They're paid to fight. They were in the military. They decided to go in the private sector. And these people are over there. And they will gladly take the contract from the American government to go get these people. We don't have the capability to rescue large numbers of Americans. First of all, large numbers. The estimates are 10 to 20,000 Americans in there. All right? That's like 40 C-17 planes full of Americans flying out of there. That's 15,000 people get into the airport. You know how many people get to the Las Vegas airport every day? You know how many planes fly out of the Las Vegas airport every day? You want to say that this is a more moderate, easygoing Taliban? Well, then tell the moderate, easygoing Taliban on August 31st, they are to allow any and all Americans or United States visa holders free and easy passage to the airport, or we drop bombs. It's as simple as that. If they're easygoing and moderate, this shouldn't be a problem. And if they're not easygoing or moderate, we just brought 5,000 or 6,000 troops in there to hold down the airport. This happened because Biden wanted to take 2,500 troops out of Afghanistan. In order to get 2,500 troops out, We needed to now send 5,000 troops in. If you got 5,000 American troops, go down the street, get the Christians, get the interpreters, and first and foremost, get American civilians out of that hellhole. What were we doing before this became national news? What were we doing about this? What was the message we were sending to the world? Well, here is the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, arriving in the Philippines. And this is what the international community sees from him a month ago as the problems began in Afghanistan. Play tape. All right, this guy is Darth Vader. The guys want to shake his hand. He won't shake hands. If he doesn't look like James Earl Jones and Darth Vader, I don't know what does. He's more concerned about coronavirus than he is about American citizens in Afghanistan. Why was he picked for the job? Let's find out from him. Play tape.
Also owe our people a working environment free of discrimination, hate, and harassment. And if confirmed, I will fight hard to stamp out sexual assault and to rid our ranks of racists and extremists and to create a climate where everyone fit and willing has the opportunity to serve this country with dignity. The job of the Department of Defense is to keep America safe from our enemies. But we can't do that if some of those enemies lie within our own ranks.
This made me lose my mind when I heard it. And now it's coming to fruition. He's more worried about stamping out racism in the military. Let me tell you something. The least racist entity on this green earth is the United States military. How do you not know that? If you're in charge of the military, you've been in the military your whole damn life. You're a black man who's now leading the military. We don't need to stamp out racism out of our military. There's no white extremism. There's no black power. There's no nothing in the military. It's, I love the brother or sister sitting next to me because they will lay down their life to save mine. The only truth in that quote was that the American Armed Forces is designed to protect Americans from our enemies. He goes on to lie about our enemies lying within our ranks. Are you flippin' kidding me? Our enemies are the Taliban, are ISIS. It's not some dude who voted for Trump who happens to be in the Navy or the Air Force or the National Guard or some Marine who took his leave to go protest the election results because he didn't believe the way we counted the votes. And they blame this on Trump's plan. Trump was handed an impossible situation. ISIS had created the caliphate. ISIS had control of half of Iraq and Syria. Their caliphate was coming to fruition. And Obama said, I don't know what to do about it. ISIS was stamped out in months. That was an impossible situation. They had the caliphate. The caliphate, for those of you who do not know, is land. It's land ruled by extremist Muslims who impart Sharia law, including cutting off limbs, acid in a girl's face if she tries to learn something, death to Christians. That's what a caliphate is. It was there. Trump stomped it out. North Korea was never as emboldened as they were in 2016. Obama said to Trump, I'm sorry, this is one situation that I didn't get enough done, and I'm handing it off to you, and we are in dire situation. Trump didn't go on the news blasting Obama about what a piece of you-know-what he is. Trump reached out to Kim Jong-il. My wife, she doesn't want me to tell. Un Kim. Lung Won Kim Jun. And I'm not culturally making fun of someone. I'm making fun of my own inability to say his name. Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-il was his father, I guess. Kim Jong-un is the present leader of Korea. I could be getting that wrong. Nonetheless, Trump addressed it, took it head on. He did not follow Obama's plan for North Korea. He did not follow Obama's plan for the caliphate in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Trump took the bull by the horns and fixed it.
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un. Thank you. Guys, we gotta stop playing the blame game. We gotta I've heard more about Trump this week than I have in the past 2 months. Everything's freaking Trump's fault. These people seriously need a psychological evaluation. But anyway, I'm glad Lloyd Austin was made the defense secretary because he was going to stamp out extremism in our own ranks. What a freaking joke. All right, here's the other leader of our military, General Milley. He says there was nothing anyone saw to predict the collapse in Afghanistan in just 11 short days. Play tape.
He said from this podium and in sworn testimony before Congress that the intelligence clearly indicated multiple scenarios were possible. One of those was an outright Taliban takeover following a rapid collapse of the Afghan security forces and the government. Another was a civil war, and a third was a negotiated settlement. However, the time frame of a rapid collapse that was widely estimated and ranged from weeks to months and even years following our departure. There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this Army and this government in 11 days. Central Command submitted a variety of plans that were briefed and approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the President. These plans are coordinated, synchronized, and rehearsed to deal with these various scenarios. One of those contingencies is what we are executing right now. As I said before, there's plenty of time to do a...
He never saw it coming. I saw videos of Afghan army people not knowing how to do jumping jacks. They literally look high. They're trying to do jumping jacks. They're giggling. I've heard that if they did drug tests for the Afghan army, we would lose 90% of them. So if half of the people are ghost soldiers collecting money, the other 90% are high on drugs, that leaves us 15,000 troops that may have a chance to defend Afghanistan. Put that up against the 75,000 Taliban, or the 115,000, depending on who you talk to. You still never saw this coming? The biggest problem with the Afghan army was that people were pretending to sign up for the army, but they were really spies. ISIS spies, Taliban spies, Al-Qaeda spies. And when they had the opportunity, they would put an IED in the cafeteria or by the officers' mess hall or try to kill Americans. I saw this coming. You didn't see it coming? How do you not see it coming? Either this is an amazing failure of intelligence, or We've been worried about the wrong things. Let's take a look back at what General Milley was doing and concerned about 2 months ago. Play tape.
On that, do you remember what your line of questioning or thought was there?
Sure. First of all, on the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look it, I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets. But I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military. And I thank you for the opportunity to make a comment on that.
Thank you, John.
All right. A couple of months ago, our Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, was concerned about white supremacy in the U.S. military. He shut down the military for, I think it was 6 months, in order to interview all of the military people to find out if, they voted for Trump, they believe in freedom, if they believe in the right to choose if you get a vaccine. A couple months ago, our number one general is concerned about 400 morons taking selfies in the Capitol. What could make such white rage happen? Maybe it was because people don't have confidence in our election system. All right, but we're allowed to have white rage over racism. That may not be that big of a problem here in the most diverse, welcoming country in the world. But you can't have white rage if you think that people are cheating in our elections. So if they make up some existential problem like climate change or racism, white rage it up. Kill cops. Throw Molotov cocktails. No COVID, no white rage problems, no nothing. But you want to get together because you don't believe in lockdowns. You want to get together because you're afraid that people are cheating in elections. And you want to voice your disapproval? The military is coming for you. Not for the Taliban, not for ISIS, not for Al Qaeda. It's coming for you. But we're hearing the parallels between the withdrawal of Vietnam and the withdrawal of Afghanistan. And I'm sorry, even the mainstream media is starting to turn their backs on Biden because they just can't defend him anymore. Now, this Clarissa Ward from CNN, she has been doing amazing work. I'm not here to compliment CNN, but this one reporter, she's working her tail off, risking life and limb to bring us the news. And you can see, I don't have it up, but you can see the difference between the day before the Taliban took over Kabul and the day after. The day before, she's wearing a beautiful sweater around her neck, long blonde hair. The next day, the Taliban is there. She's cloaked in black with covering her head. And she's been inquisitioned by the Taliban numerous times since she's been there. And being part of this elitist BS CNN crowd, she can leave anytime she wants, and she chooses not to. So kudos to Clarissa Ward. Let's hear what she had to say in comparing Kabul to Saigon. Play tape.
Been at the airport now for 12 hours and on the airfield for 8 hours. And during the last 8 hours, the time that we've been waiting here, we have not seen a single U.S. flight evacuate people. We saw one U.S. flight take off about half an hour to an hour ago, but it was filled with U.S. servicemen and women. The people who have been sitting on the tarmac for the last 10 hours have not been able to get on a flight, which means, Kate, because we did the whole sort of process today, that all the other bottlenecks are now even more choked. Because if the flights aren't moving and the people aren't moving, then they can't bring in more people. And so what's emerging quite clearly here is, it's a chaotic scene. You have people lying on the floor with their babies. It's incredibly loud here. Obviously, we're on an airfield. There's all sorts of aircraft around. Mothers trying to put their hands over their babies' ears. It's one thing to be here for a couple of hours, but these people have been on the airfield for 10 hours. And before that, 2 days, Kate, to try to get through this airport, beginning with the crush and the beatings at the Taliban checkpoint, and then the very, very slow process of getting through the various U.S. checkpoints before you get to the airfield. And, there's just no supplies here. People are standing in the scorching 90-degree sunshine for hours on end. We saw a tiny newborn baby being evacuated in emergency for medical care because she was completely dehydrated and had sunstroke. I've seen U.S. soldiers handing out strips of cardboard to be used as makeshift fans. I mean, that's the level that we're dealing with. There's no tent. There's nothing for these people. And these are the lucky ones. That is what is so hard to get your head around here. These are the lucky ones. These are the people who have already had their paperwork approved. They're standing in line in Las Vegas heat with no water, no food, no nothing. All right? While we're here fighting over having, Democrats being allowed to hand out water, and it's racist if they can't because a poll worker has to hand out the water who's nonpartisan. That's what we were concerned with, remember, 3 months ago? This is no water while you're standing on a line. These are the people who already have approval to get out, and they can't get out. I thought we had control of the airbase. But meanwhile, they're flying out military people. They're not flying out civilians. How do we fly out military people who are prepared for this fight before we get rid of any teachers, administrative assistants, nurses, doctors, whatever American citizens we have to support the effort in Afghanistan? How are they not leaving before our military personnel? And I'll tell you right now, to a man, you ask any of those men and women who are military, they would say, I'll stay until every American is out. All right? This is not the rank and file military. These people want to fight. There's retired military who are signing up to fly over there as civilians to save Christians and Americans. This is our leadership. And again, good job to Clarissa Ward. All right? Now, let's take a look back. Again, I know I keep going back and forth. I'm like a Quentin Tarantino movie over here. Let's see what the Pentagon spokesman said. He actually said, let me spoil it, that the withdrawal will be safe, orderly, and effective. All right? When meanwhile, the truth is anything but. Play tape.
That said, the review is ongoing. The president hasn't made a decision one way or the other about force levels in Afghanistan or missions in Afghanistan. And as the secretary himself said when we were in Kabul just a couple of weeks ago, that he's confident that whatever the decision is, if that decision involves a withdrawal, that General Miller and General McKenzie will be able to do so in a safe, orderly, and effective way.
He's lying. He did not give the generals on the ground in Kabul the resources, the support, or the propaganda needed to have a safe and effective withdrawal. It's actually the exact opposite. All right? And it is pathetic. Here's a CIA analyst, a former CIA analyst, explaining how he feels about this spokesman's most recent press conference. Play tape.
Ned Price there, the spokesperson for the State Department, talk about where we are and the status of all of the people, the tens of thousands of people who are still trying to make it to that airport and get out of Afghanistan. Let's bring back Nick Payton-Walsh and Phil Mudd. We also want to bring in former CNN and NBC Kabul Bureau Chief Atiya Abawi. Great to have you here. Phil, I just want to start with you because it worries me, but I don't know if it worries you, that Ned Price and no one can really give specific numbers. If they don't know the specific demographics of who they're flying out of there, exactly how many Americans, exactly how many special immigrant visa Afghans, how do they know how many are left behind? How do they know when the mission is complete?
Boy, you're a little more polite than I would be. That was unacceptable. I'm not interested in hearing a U.S. government spokesperson talk about how unprecedented this is with other U.S. presidents and how other presidents didn't have to deal with this. I'm interested in understanding why we did only 2,000 people in 24 hours, how we increase that pace over the next 24 hours, what the total number is that we want to get out, and how long that's going to take. That was pathetic. Explaining how well you're doing when they're American citizens who can't get to the airport, that guy needs some training fast. That was horrible.
All right. It is pathetic. We are the strongest military on the face of the earth that the earth has ever known. If we want to go to the Kabul airport, drive some Humvees and tanks through the streets of Kabul, pick up our American citizens and Christians and people who have laid their life on the line to help us in the war on terror, we can do it. We do have the capability. We don't have the will. And that is what made America great. When we had the will to protect our own. The majority of Americans do have that will. It's just sad that the half a dozen people who get to make these decisions do not have the will. Just like they had the will to condemn burning down courthouses, killing police officers. But they didn't have the will to stand up for each and every American. They had the will. They did not have the will to enforce freedoms. They did not have the will to tell us the truth about extremism, about January 6th, about COVID, about masks, about Afghanistan, about China, about Hunter, about Russia, about Trump. They don't have the will to tell the truth. They don't have the will to do what's right. I mentioned Glenn Beck's Nazarene Fund. I didn't mention the name of it. It's called the Nazarene Fund. If you want to give money, Google Glenn Beck Nazarene Fund. Maybe you don't have money. You have prayer. Each and every day. We need to pray. We need to pray for Christians who are getting killed in Afghanistan at this very moment. We need to pray for the girls who did not grow up under Sharia law. They're 16, 17, 18 years old, juniors in high school, on the robotics team, interacting on the international stage in robotics contests, worldwide debates, forums, Zoom calls. It's all over for them. Pray for those girls who know what it's like to get an education and they won't be allowed to do so anymore, without the risk of getting acid poured on their face. Do you know in Kabul right now there is a Sharia law that states if you have a girl over the age of 12 living in your home, you need to put a big black X on your home. So that way the Taliban can go in there, take your girl as a wife, and rape them, and impregnate them, and make them cover their face and stay in their home for the rest of their life. If you have a girl over the age of 12 in your home and you don't put the black X on your house, everybody in the home is executed on the spot. Right then and there. If there's a woman over the age of 25 or something like that, and you are not a supporter, you're not in the army of the Taliban, they kidnap your wife and they make her a sex slave. And when they're done raping her, they sell her to other Sharia law lovers, whether it be in Syria or Iran or Iraq. Pray for those women. Pray for the schoolgirls. Pray for the Christians. Pray for the American soldiers who are not making decisions, but they are following orders. The only decisions they make is whether to catch a baby when it's thrown over a barbed wire fence, or do they let the baby fall to the ground. Those are the only decisions they're entitled to make. Otherwise, they just take their orders. And most importantly, pray for the American civilians who went to Afghanistan to try to do the right thing. And now their government, our government, is abandoning them on the streets of Kabul behind enemy lines. I don't know what to do. I'm here. I'm trying to spread some truth, some common sense. Just tell you what I see. I'm telling you to pray. If you got some money, I'm telling you to give to Glenn Beck's Nazarene Fund. That's all we got, guys. All right, please, let me know what you think in the comments. All right? Send us an email to johnnybruchot@gmail.com. Subscribe to the podcast. When I'm talking about things like COVID, I'm going to be going live. So you guys can see it right then and there. And then if I get banned or whatever the case may be, at least you have the opportunity to see it. So check out our live videos. They'll be coming up. We'll be accepting calls. And, may God be with us. All right? Let's worry about the problems that are actually problems. All right? We have freedom here in America. They don't in other places. Let's preserve our freedom here and pray for their freedom and their safety. My name is John Brookhagen. Thank you for joining us. God bless the United States and God bless the people of Afghanistan. I'll see you next time.